The NBA bubble created frauds, and now that I have your attention, I'm gonna tell you why. So first for this, we're excluding all the teams that had no chance, like, the Magic or the Nets, and then also teams that were just, they were just there, like Portland or the Rockets. I mean, Portland put up a good fight, but, they, at the end of the day, they were just there, and they had a nice bubble, but at the end of the day, when it came to the playoffs, it was clear that they were just there, and, they were a fine team, but it it wasn't it. And the Rockets are the same way. Good team, but everyone knows what they are. They are just there. They have Russell Westbrook and Harden, and you know that's it. Small ball clearly didn't work, so we know what they are.
Flop balance shot.
As the finals have just ended, it's clear that the bubble created fraudulent teams, teams that did not belong, but it seemed like they did because it was the bubble. These include young teams and also older teams that just never could get over the hump, but with the bubble, they were able to go further than we originally thought.
Wow, Lillard way out, and he hits.
Some of the teams that were frauds and benefited from the bubble are the Celtics, the Pacers, Jazz, and Denver. Don't get me wrong, some of these teams, like the Celtics and Denver mostly, have really great young talent and seem to be on the rise for something more. But the bubble definitely helped them in many ways when it came to not having to go on the road or anything like that, which both teams struggle with doing. And it's been proven in their past that they both struggle with this, losing when they're not supposed to lose, or losing to lower teams, playing lower down to competition when they shouldn't. Their track record has shown that they fall into those traps more easily and are more likely to without a bubble. The Jazz also are in that category of losing to teams that they shouldn't, but also the Jazz are, to me, a middling team, and it's tough to say that they should beat anyone at any given point. First, let's start with the Pacers, who are just complete frauds. Like, it was hilarious. TJ Warren had that 5-game stretch of just going crazy. And when you look at it, it's really not that impressive because there have been players who have done that over the years for far longer stretches, whether it was a month or 20 games or half a season or an entire season. There have been many examples of players just going off who are people who are players that have been in the league for a while, and they've never been that type of player, but for some reason they have this spurt of just great play. So there have been many examples, and TJ Warren will not be the last, and he definitely wasn't the best. And it was clear when they made it to the playoffs and they faced the Heat, they got thrashed. They did not have a chance, and it was clear to me that they definitely didn't belong, and the bubble absolutely 1,000% propped them up and helps them go forward to a place that they should have never been allowed to.
That's knocked away by TJ Warren. He's back in.
Great pass. Really good pass.
Next is the Jazz, and they are another middling team that kind of reminds me of the Pacers, but they're like the Pacers, but a better version. They have Donovan Mitchell, who is just fantastic. He is so good. He's very, very, very good, and he's going to continue to trend in that way, and he's just going to continue to get better and better. So he is a real player. He's a real young star on that team, and everybody else, Rudy Gobert, he's always been decent, but it's just defense, no offensive game unless you're lobbing it up to him. And that's pretty much it. Everyone else around is, pieces and things like that, but nothing substantial or good enough for them to really go anywhere, to be honest. There needs to be more done with that team. And the bubble kind of confirmed that they weren't a good team, but also at the same time showed that Donovan Mitchell is that guy. The bubble exposed them in a way that showed that they weren't a good team, but they are. But Donovan Mitchell is that guy. So I think it went longer than it would have. It definitely went longer than it would have without the bubble. I do not believe it would have gone 7 games without the bubble. Donovan Mitchell still would have done his thing, but it would not have gone as long as it did without the bubble. The Denver Nuggets are very good, but the only reason they are what they are is because of the two guys of Joker and Murray. Murray and Joker are the reason why the Denver Nuggets are good in any fashion, because everything else around them just isn't really it. And that was clear. I think without the bubble, I don't know. I think without the bubble, all things considered, there is no way that they come back from 3-1 down twice. I do not believe that there is no shot. With the bubble helps them immensely with creating those comebacks, because there is no way, all things being, there's no way that they come back from those deficit. But getting out of the first round, beating the Jazz, for sure. I think they still would have done that with the two guys they got and the Jazz only having one. They still do that and everything is fine. They get past them. That's good. I believe that. So the Jazz. Denver is kind of a middling team in their own way, but the two guys prop them up very highly, and they're good, but they need more. I don't know what else they need, but they need more. And the bubble allowed them to get to the conference finals, but without that, there's no way unless they add more pieces. And now last but not least for the young teams is the Celtics. The Celtics are... I don't know. I could talk forever about the Celtics. I mean, one, they are my team, but also at the same time, it's just they really know how to frustrate you when you're a fan, at least. And even not a fan, they really know how to frustrate you in winning games that they don't seem like they should win, but then also losing games that they definitely should win. Like, this team is the epitome of doing those things. They do it all the time. And I believe this playoff run in the bubble was their chance to, even if it wasn't real, at least their chance to grow up a little and get further than they probably would have without it. And they couldn't even do that with, them throwing chairs at each other in the locker room, or, getting to fights on like, I don't know what this team is. Something needs to be done. Danny Ainge needs to make a move with moving somebody, because it is clear that this core group isn't it. Someone needs to go between Jalen, Tatum, and Smart, or someone else. I don't know. Obviously, Tatum's not going anywhere. And maybe Brown has proved that he is very good and he's going to become something special. So maybe it's Smart, but I don't know. Something needs to be done, because it's clear that this team, as presently constructed, isn't going to do it. And they got to the conference finals against the Heat. And it's just like, for me, it was clear that the Heat outclassed them in all ways. And the Heat had a leader in Jimmy Butler who knew what to do, who knew how to calm people down, and who knows how to lead, instilling confidence in his teammates. He knows how to do all of those things, and the Celtics do not have that person. Kemba Walker's been in the league for a while, but he's not that guy. Tatum, definitely not that guy. No one is. Smart, tries to be that guy, but he's not. And something about this that's interesting that, people are saying, like, why would Smart be that guy or whatever? Like, you don't need to be the best player to be that guy. You just need to be a calming voice that everyone respects. And it seems like Smart isn't that person. He doesn't seem like he's respected by everyone like Tatum and Brown. So it's just a weird dynamic that they have going on there. I don't know what they're going to do, but they need to do something. Staying pat is not good enough, because they weren't even supposed to be, they weren't even supposed to go as far as they did. So something needs to be done, and that's clear. I don't know what that move is, but something needs to be done. Next, we come to the portion of the surprising teams, but one wasn't really surprising. They just are this good. First is the Raptors. I guess it wasn't surprising that they got to where they did because they're a good team. And even without Kawhi, they've proven that the entire season, and the playoffs just reinforced that they are, in fact, a good team without Kawhi, and they will get it done. They will go far. Whether they will have a good record in the regular season, and they will have a good playoff run. They will do well. They won't win a championship, but they will do well. Next is the Thunder. The Thunder really surprised me. Chris Paul really led this team to go far, and helping the young players like Shea and everyone else. It's just like Paul was the deciding factor. He was the reason they got where they were. He was the reason they had a good record in the regular season. He was the reason they just pushed the Rockets to the brink, where they probably should have won that series. So it was very, very well done. And I think that without the bubble, they would have done the same thing. I think Paul would have been able to do the same thing and keep them where they were and play as well as they did. You know, I think they would have gone pretty far. I don't know about 7 with the Rockets, but they would have gone pretty far. And finally, we have the Heat, who made it all the way to the NBA Finals. No one, if you say you saw this coming, there's no way. I mean, you're lying, because the Heat getting this far, there's no shot. They weren't on anyone's boards. No one saw this coming, and they shocked everyone. They were led well with Spoelstra and Jimmy. Those two are the leaders, and obviously Spoelstra being the coach and Jimmy on the court. It was just amazing. Jimmy led those young players, the young players like Hero and Duncan and Bam. He led them, and he instilled belief in them to get as far as they did, to believe that they belong in these high pressure situations and these high places. He instilled that, and he is the leader of leaders. Jimmy proved a lot of people wrong, and he proved that the places he's been, the Sixers and Minnesota, that those young players were the problem. Those young players were the problem with Joel and Ben and Kat. Those guys were the problem, not Jimmy. Jimmy was that guy that realized that those guys, they weren't it, and he needed his own team, and that was the Heat. The Heat really showed something, and they are poised to be a problem in the future with the cap space and Bam and Hero and Duncan. They are poised to be a problem. They will be around, and the Eastern Conference will be tough with them. And I heard that they're trying to after Giannis too. Even without him, they are amazing. But throw him in the loop. That's insane. So the Heat were it, and I love the Heat. I love them as a team. They are just amazing to watch, and they play so hard. Jimmy plays so hard, and that's enjoyable to watch. With the bubble situation with the Heat, I believe that they still would have gone as far as they did. I think they would have done it, and everyone with Giannis and things, everyone think Milwaukee would have just flown through. I do not believe so. Giannis is beatable with a zone, and it would have worked the same this year that it did last year. It would have worked the same. Instead of Kawhi, it would have been Jimmy. So I believe that they would have beaten Milwaukee and gone to the finals, beaten everybody else, the Celtics and the Pacers or whatever. They would have done the same thing without a bubble. With their zone, it worked really well up until the Lakers, but everyone else really couldn't solve it, and that was clear. So that would have worked regardless if it was in a bubble. Lastly, with the the Lakers, I mean, there's really nothing to say. They were who they were, and they won. You know, it's pretty crazy that, I don't know. I think people went against the Lakers because they didn't want LeBron to win, or they didn't want them to win, more than seeing what, you know, this team may not have depth, but they have the guys that will do what they need to do when they need to do it. And, you know, with LeBron and AD, like, anything's possible, clearly. So, I don't know, people just had biases and went against them because, you know, it was the sexy pick, or it was cool to do that. It was sexy to pick the Clippers, you know. The Clippers are a laughingstock, a bunch of losers, bro. First, yeah, quick detour. Let's go to the Clippers. Frauds. It's insane. Frauds. Anyways, back to the Lakers. Yeah, you know, they did it. They played well, and this was definitely deserved. Anyone that's saying like this isn't this an asterisk or something like that or whatever, like, no, this was a different type of difficult. This was mentally difficult, and it was a whole different mental gymnastics. It was insane that what these players had to go through being in the bubble, isolated and such. So hats off to them, and they deserve it.